Oh yeah, it's draft time, baby. What's up, 2k4CTF? I'm Connex5. Here we got Neo right along with me for the ride.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Let me turn you up a little bit before we get started here. We're going to do a little bit of introduction here, kind of fumble around. We've been photoshopping and excelling and doing all sorts of documentational stuff, getting ready for this. Matter of fact, we'll go ahead and cover now kind of what we're going to go over today. Draft's going to start in just about an hour at 9 p.m. Eastern. Right now we got a bunch of people on the channel. Looking at what we're going to go over today is we're going to be a quick introduction to MLUT, the whole draft league sort of idea and how that's going to work. And we're going to go over the map list that we're going to be looking at this year, or this season, and how all that's going to be affecting things. And we also have a couple player breakdowns we're going to do. We've got the biggest steals in the draft, biggest question marks in the draft. I've also got my breakdown of the best available players per position that we're going to be updating as the draft goes on to sort of give you guys an idea of whether the captains are picking along the lines of the salary or whether they're going to try to go ahead and jump ahead and maybe find some good deals here. And then Neo's going to update you guys. He did an entire mock draft that he's going to cover here. Alright, so go ahead and let's see, and get started here with a basic little introduction. We're going to pull in Facial in here. He's going to give us a little introduction to this whole MLUT sort of structure here. Drag and drop. What's up, Facial?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Alright, so we're getting started here with our coverage. So just, I'm pretty sure everyone watching live right now is going to have a pretty good idea of what all is going on. It's mostly going to be the players involved with this thing. But, just for posterity's sake and for anyone who may stumble across this, can you give us a little bit of your sort of history and a little introduction to MLUT and this whole sort of draft league system and what exactly it entails?
Yeah, so like MLUT is probably one of the things that's still keeping a lot of the core UT community together. It's still fairly active in UT 99, very much so obviously still here in Unreal Tournament 2004. So it's very much like the pickup games that we play on a nightly basis in 2k4CTF, and it's a fantastic environment.
Okay, so for anyone here or anyone who may catch this who has no idea what this whole draft league and all that stuff is about, so basically what happens is you effectively look around and say how many people do we have and how many players do we have that we can throw together to put into some teams, not unlike what any of your club teams may do. Everything from Little League baseball to on up through the ranks of what you might call traditional sports. It's basically the way things start here, but we do things a little bit differently to try to even teams out, don't we?
Definitely. So there's always, there's the salaries that are involved, which take into effect, skill level and things of that nature. Obviously, when any one of these events comes up, they're not exactly held back to back. So you've got a lot of time that's lapsed between, the last MLUT event and this MLUT event. Not necessarily all of the players who signed up currently were signed up in previous ones. So you've got a lot of guys who signed up who may be rusty or who may have taken the last few weeks to kind of get back into the game. And so a lot of the players who are very active obviously know a lot of the other players. Obviously, there's only 70 people listed right now on the free agent list, so there's not a lot of guys on there. But captains are going to be responsible for picking personalities that are going to mesh well. Obviously, that's going to be one of the keys to success here. The salary doesn't play a huge role in the fact that there is no actual salary cap. The salaries are there just to kind of give maybe people who are newer to the community an idea of who the better players are, and obviously it helps with the draft pick. Obviously, the lower total in dollar value of the team is the team who gets the first pick in the next round. So.
Well, and what makes this MLUT really nice is that there really isn't any ladder play anymore in this game. So it's a nice way for all of us to actually still play that still want to play and be competitive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in a way, these draft leagues sort of necessarily prevent stagnation because just due to the very nature of them, you're never going to have the same teams, or you're very rarely going to have the exact same teams between two different seasons, right?
Yeah, which inherently makes it a better environment for everybody anyway. That's kind of I think that also might be part of a determining factor in somebody's salary. I think I've heard Lino talk about it a few times. Is previous quote unquote rings. The fabled MLUT championship rings that are obviously not real, but e-rings basically that are given out to people who have won past championships, and those teams obviously are never formed the exact same from one season to the next.
Yeah, and if nothing else, it's something a little more topical. I mean, you can only talk about that ladder match from 8 years ago for so long before you really need something new to hang your hat on, and it's kind of nice to have something sort of recurring every once in a while, even if it's only once or twice a year, to look back at in a more recent time frame.
Well, and I think to that point, the reason why ladder play kind of ended was you'd get the stacked curse of teams, or the teams like that, where it really didn't make it necessarily that fun anymore. So this is a way for the whole community to really have a lot more fun.
Yeah, and I think in that regard, a lot of the sort of mid-level and even lower to mid-level players have a good chance to play alongside folks that they wouldn't normally have a chance to play alongside. I think you get a lot of folks in ladder play that get stuck in that mid-range sort of tier, and they're not going to get any better if they're only playing alongside people who aren't going to improve, and then they end up playing against people instead of with them that are better than them, and they just end up getting stomped at some point. I think a lot of that sort of helps with stagnation of the skill level, and sort of community-wide, really, and I think this is one way to combat that.
Yeah, and I would say that this entire event is just inherently inviting to players who aren't necessarily capture the flag players by nature. You can only maybe play public TAM servers or maybe some TDM servers for so long in a game that's 10 years old at this point. So this gives you a chance to communicate with players, obviously, who have an enjoyment in the same game that you do, and allows you to maybe pick up a new game type for those guys who don't necessarily play capture the flag all the time. And again, it keeps the community active, and it keeps us doing things that we enjoy.
So just give a little bit of facial. I know you've had more experience than certainly me or Neo in this. How long has MLUT been going on? I mean, I know it started with Unreal Tournament 1. I know there's been various leagues and even different game types that have gone on over the years.
So obviously it started with UT99. I never played UT99 in truth during its heyday, so I don't know exactly when those MLUTs started, but I have to imagine it was kind of a similar event, maybe towards the decline of the ladder play. When the core community stayed with the game, but basically stopped playing. It gave them a way to like we've talked about so far, keep messing up rosters and keep switching people around. Maybe give you a chance to play with a guy that you've always maybe butted heads with or had troubles with when he was on another team. Maybe he was your arch rival or whatever. Now it gives you a chance to be on the same team with that guy. But certainly, with the more recent games, the 2003s and the 2004s, there was never an MLUT for Unreal Tournament 2003, obviously because Unreal Tournament 2004 came out the following year, so there was never a lapse necessarily in quality, quote-unquote, competitive play. Since that time, we've had many successful MLUT events. Generally, when we get these events going, Lino is generally primarily in charge of just rounding up the troops. He's got just a laundry list of contacts who he's played with and alongside throughout the years, and so he basically will send a message out, whether it be email or Facebook or anything like that, and the proof shows right now in the number of signups. I'm sure before the MLUT event was announced, there weren't a whole lot of people who were actively pugging up on a nightly basis. You probably had maybe 7 to 12, maybe 13 guys tops who were in and out, but that doesn't necessarily lead to games every night. Since the MLUT event has been announced, and since free agency signups have been open, I mean, you're talking 20 plus people on each night actively pugging, and that gives us 3, 4, 5 pugs each night, which makes the community inherently more active.
And also, I guess one thing that's worth covering here, once again, I'm sure most of the folks listening right now are going to know about this, but can you cover a little bit about how this sort of free agent system works? Because not everyone who signs up gets drafted, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to get a chance to play.
Yeah, definitely. And this year will be an interesting thing, and in truth, the 2k4 system is very much different than the UT99 system. So in UT99, there were actually salary caps. So each one of the players, is assigned a dollar amount based on skill and other varying factors that go into determining a value of that kind. And you pick a team, and then if you want to add free agents or drop free agents, you have to stay under that cap. With 2K4, like we talked about earlier, the assigned salaries is literally only there to determine draft order from round to round. So in the event that you have a no show or somebody show up, you can either take the risk of keeping that person on your roster or dropping them for a free agent. So that free agency pool is really nice to have because there's still a list of guys who want to play and who you have the ability to contact and pick up and add to your team. The problem there becomes holdouts and things like that. Maybe some guy doesn't necessarily want to play for a specific captain who picked him. He can quote unquote hold out. Where in previous seasons with like UT99 and things like that, they would drop that player maybe to a free agency pool, inflate his salary, and make it less attractive and appealing for another team to pick him up. We don't necessarily have that here, but I think we have a tight enough community and a small enough community where that would probably be detrimental to do something like that. And I think most guys honestly want to just play the game, and they'll put any type of bad feelings or anything like that aside.
Well, and what's interesting here is now that we have 70 signups and 7 teams of 7, there's going to be 21 free agents out there, so there should be a pretty good sized pool if you do have no-shows.
Yeah, and I think to that end too, I know some of the past draft leagues that we've had, a lot of the free agents weren't very attractive. Whenever you had hard salary caps, you had a lot of players that were seemingly way overpriced, or you had guys who were complete unknowns. And so in truth and practicality, there have been a lot of drafts in the past where there really weren't free agents that were really desirable to be picked up, and so if you had no shows, you pretty much just had to move down your roster. Whereas now you can kind of try to plug and play a little bit. If you lose a defender, you might actually have a decent defender available in your free agent pool, because most of our free agent pool, I think this season is at least fairly active. Like there's folks that I've seen playing within the past month or so, even if I don't know exactly who they are very well, they've at least been around.
Yeah, I would agree. And if you look at the bottom of that list, and we're talking specifically every team just picking chalk, you're going all the way down to almost the $400 limit of where that 21 player cutoff is, and that's a mid-level salary. That's guys who are active and who are playing on a regular basis, and who can definitely be a value add to any team who's looking to bolster either a defense, offense, mid, anything of that nature.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give my own personal anecdote here. I've actually never been drafted in a draft league. I've always been picked up as a free agent or a captain. I know the very first one in 2K4 that I played in, I was actually, I guess, relatively unknown at the time. I was a TDM player, basically. And so I was one of those lower to mid-level guys that everyone kind of sort of remembered playing within a pub or whatever, but didn't really want to pick up on their CTF team. And then after, I think I had just played like a couple pickup games with Trapoon or Q or whoever the captain was at the time, they ended up picking me up to replace like Hierophant or someone who had just gone AFK. And then we ended up making it all the way to the finals, and I think we lost in like the 5th map of the finals there or something like that. So it ended up being a really close, intense finals. And from there, that's when Trapoon recruited me into N, and I ended up playing with them for the rest of the game. So, just if anyone out there is listening, they do end up being left out of the initial draft as a free agent, it definitely doesn't mean that you'll never get a chance to play. You'll still have plenty of time to prove yourself to captains, and you may even be able to move your way up to a starting role in a team, because a lot of times activity and chemistry and to a certain degree attitude even makes a big difference in these drafts.
Well, yeah, and to that point, while there will be scrimmages going on between the teams drafted tonight, if you don't get picked up and you play some pugs and pound 2k4CTF, then if you show activity, you can definitely get picked up during the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And once the teams are picked and once the rosters are set, obviously teams are going to want to scrim with their actual teams, but there's always a chance, that not everybody from a single roster or necessarily a quote-unquote starting 5 will be on. So there's going to be plenty of pugs still going on from here on out. So, definitely get in there, show some activity, and, maybe you'll catch a captain's eye and, they'll be willing to switch it up.
All right, well, I don't think Leno's quite home from work yet, so I can't ask him and grill him about the exact details of the logistics of this league. But I believe what we're doing this time is we have 7 teams. They're all going to be playing round robin, so you'll have 6 teams playing each week with 1 having a bye, and they're going to be 2 map matches, correct?
In truth, I don't know if that's true or not. I think we were all waiting for Leno to kind of get all that hammered out, because if you actually look at the actual MLUT site, the only things that are listed are the map list and the free agency pool. The rules are not actually specifically put in there yet. So
okay, well, it's my understanding to this point that what it's going to be is 2 map matches where each team chooses sort of their home map, and of course we have already covered that throughout the map list, each team can only choose each map once. And so you're forced to decide when you're going to play your best map, when you're going to play your least favorite map, or how you're going to throw those in there. And we'll cover that a little bit later when we get into the maps. But there's going to be a little bit of strategy there too. Alright, checking IRC right now. Yeah, it looks like nobody else. Leno's still coming home from work, so we'll probably go to get some clarification from him a little bit later, hopefully before the draft actually starts. But thanks for coming in, Facial. I think we're going to go ahead and move on to this map list breakdown and keep things rolling here.
yeah, sounds good. I appreciate it.